Hey, what is happening, Miami Dolphins fans? Welcome back to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and it's a new week, and it's time to put those back-to-back losses behind us. It's time to kick off Vikings week with some stock up, stock down candidates, but you know the drill. I'm going to give mine, but I want to hear yours as well, so make sure you are dropping those in the comments below. Let's carry on the conversation right there, and if you haven't done so already, make sure you are getting subscribed. We're inching closer to 2,000 subscribers. So thanks to everyone that has already subscribed. And like I said, if you haven't yet, make sure you are doing so. But let's get things kicked off. I'm actually combining a couple of them this week because, as you can see with this first one, a couple of them are the same position, this situation. We got the running backs, but I've got stock up Raheem Mostert, stock down Chase Edmonds. And I sort of hit on this one a little bit last week, but I'm making a point to discuss it again this week because what we saw from Raheem Mostert last week and what we've seen from him the last 2 weeks, over the last 2 weeks, he has a 33-6 carry advantage over Chase Edmonds. Not only is he out touching him, but man, the production is finally there. And I talked about this in the Dolphins Jets recap video. Of all of the weeks for a Dolphins running back to have a little bit of a breakout game against the Jets, the way that game kind of unraveled, that was the last thing I really expected. Without your starting quarterback, without your backup quarterback, knowing that the Jets could just pretty much load the box and play against the run with offensive line injuries, without Terron Armstead, without your typical starting right tackle, with the left guard that is literally ranked as the worst guard in the National Football League. Raheem Mostert goes out and performs at that level. So there's nothing but stock up. I would anticipate the Dolphins continuing to ride the hot hand, and there's no doubt in my mind right now that that is Raheem Mostert. Please, please, please stay healthy. Please, please stay healthy. But Chase Edmonds with the stock down, he has been one of the bigger free agent disappointments so far, but here's the thing. I still like what Chase Edmonds brings to the table. The problem is, and I'm going to use a golf analogy on this one. If you've ever golfed, like you've noticed that some players are, I have them all the time. You got the yips. I feel like Chase Edmonds essentially has like the running back yips. And in order for him to get over that, he's got to get an opportunity where he busts out a big run or next time he's thrown the ball, because we're going to need him to perform at some point in time. Next time he's thrown the ball, bring it in. Catch it, show yourself that you can do it, prove that you can do it, have that be the thing that's most recent in your mind. I think that's how he can get over these yips. But man, until he does, I mean, we're even seeing Myles Gaskin get his first carries of the season. So stock down for the time being for Chase Edmonds. But like I said, I paired a couple of these together, and I did the same thing with the offensive line because I got stock up Robert Hunt, stock down Liam Eichenberg. Now, this is the second time in the last 3 weeks that Robert Hunt has graded out, according to Pro Football Focus, as the Miami Dolphins' top player. And I've said this before, that Pro Football Focus and their grades is not the Bible, but yet it's a resource that you can use. And I typically like to use it for a couple of things. And offensive line play is one of them, because offensive line play is one of the hardest things to judge. So I like to use it at least as a resource. And not only has he ranked that high the last couple of weeks, he is now a top 5 guard in the entire National Football League. He is getting the job done. The versatility he has, even though he's only played at right guard so far. I mean, Armstead, him, and Connor Williams, that's the calling card on the offensive line. Those have been the 3 that have stood out. The other 2, not so much. But Robert Hunt, literally playing at a Pro Bowl level. And if we can get this team back on track, he's going to get more and more attention moving forward. Wouldn't be surprising if he earned his first ever trip to the Pro Bowl. But Liam Eichenberg, you don't need to be a PFF analyst in order to just watch him getting beat by an array of moves off the snap. Or like that game, there was like a viral video against him on the Jets, looking like he put on ice skates and was just pushed back into the quarterback. It's happening way too often. And like I alluded to earlier in the video, he is now ranked as the worst guard in the National Football League through the first 5 weeks. So the question is, could the Miami Dolphins pull the plug on the entire experiment of Liam Eichenberg being the left guard and Connor Williams being the center. So let's look at a couple of different options here right now. Because as we all know, Connor Williams plays his entire career at left guard for the Dallas Cowboys. You bring him into Miami, all of a sudden the center job is yours. And it's basically yours to lose at this point in time. And we hear all offseason about the snap issues, which we haven't had one like go between the quarterback's feet or shoot over his head. But I'd be lying if I said it hasn't thrown off the timing a little bit here or there. But let's go through a couple of different scenarios with this offensive line because we're going to be getting a couple of players back. So Austin Jackson is eligible to return from the IR this week. Whether or not he will is yet to be seen. But Coach McDaniel made it sound like, you know what, we're going to have him practice. There's a good chance that he can come back. And Terron Armstead obviously stays in New York, sees a toe specialist. There's nothing but bad news there. You would think probably the worst. I was, for one, thinking the worst. Comes back that, you know what, he's going to do his normal week, which doesn't necessarily mean he's going to practice because he hasn't really practiced much at all this season. But at the end of the day, still has a shot to play in week 6. So if you stick with option one being the original plan, which from left to right is Armstead, Eichenberg, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson. That's your starting 5 to begin the season. If both Armstead and Austin Jackson are back, you have that option this week against the Vikings. Option 2, that's moving Austin Jackson to guard. So you'd have Terron Armstead, you'd have Austin Jackson now at left guard, moving Eichenberg to the bench, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, and then you got to have a solution for right tackle. So you're essentially between Greg Little, who's been holding down the fort right now. His performance hasn't been great the last few weeks, but you got Greg Little and Brandon Shell, who we saw step in for Terron Armstead last week. Or this is where things get a little intriguing. The new center option. So you could go Terron Armstead, move Connor Williams back to his natural position of left guard, bump Michael Dieter from the bench to starting center, and then you could have Robert Hunt at right guard, and if Austin Jackson is back, you could move him back to right tackle. So there's even more options than that. There's a lot of options, but those are the options that I at least wanted to hit on as potential possibilities because who knows how long this Liam Eichenberg experiment can last, especially if you're getting Tua back. The last thing you can have is interior pressure, getting to him way too fast and putting him in harm's way of yet another hit. Because honestly, if he comes back, whether it's this week, next week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the line, that you can't have another hit to the head. There's going to be way too many things going on if Tua takes another concussion or even like a semi-scary hit to the head. So a lot to ponder there, a lot to consider, but those are some of the options. And I want to wrap it up. These last two are not necessarily players, but it's stocked down on the pass rush and the defensive assignments. So I got some numbers here that I want to talk about. The Miami Dolphins have 9 sacks through 5 games, which is the 9th least in the entire NFL. Where that gets even more alarming is when you consider the fact that Brandon Jones has 2 of those sacks. Javon Holland has 1.5 of those sacks. So your safeties have 3.5 of those sacks, which leaves 5.5 sacks between Melvin Ingram, Jerome Baker, Jalen Phillips, and Emmanuel Ogbah, which means there's no sacks for Andrew Van Ginkel, Trey Flowers, Zach Sealer, Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, and literally everyone else. That's way too damn much talent between the names that I listed to only combine for 5.5 sacks through 5 games. We're seeing some pressures at random times throughout the game, but we're not getting home like we did last year and like we counted on doing so often last year. So you got to ask yourself, is that individual player performance? Is that Josh Boyer and the defensive scheme? Is it a combination of those things? My vote kind of goes towards the combination of those things. And at the end of the day, I sort of think it has to do some with opposing teams' offensive coordinators kind of knowing how to attack this defense. They've seen it now. The tape is out there. They've seen teams have success about it, and it's a copycat league. We had so much success with it last year when we first started it. The tape wasn't out there. Well, guess what? It's kind of been exposed now. So you're going to have to make a change and make a change fast. And who knows what that's going to consist. But with the beat up secondary that we have right now, with Xavier Howard going to come into this game with questionable with the groins. Byron Jones is not coming off the PUP list. With the inexperienced play that we have at secondary, about to go against Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins when he's hot. I don't want to say he's one of the best in the league, but he can get the job done. Oh, and not to mention Dalvin Cook. So you got the threat of the run game as well. We have to find some pressure, and we have to find it fast. So that is what I've got. But like I said, Miami Dolphins fans, I want to hear yours as well. Drop your stock up, stop down candidates in the comments below. And stay tuned. I will be back on Thursday with 3 keys to victory. On Saturday, I will have my final preview and prediction. And if everything goes well this week, at some point in time, I'm actually going to have a guy on that covers the Minnesota Vikings, kind of pick his brain a little bit as well. Their team strengths, their team's weaknesses, where the Dolphins can maybe exploit them, where they think maybe they can exploit us. So stay tuned. I'm in the process of lining that up as well. But that is my time for today, Dolphins fans. And until next time, Fins